Hi, I've just been thinking about my favourite groups, and one of them is Berlin. And I was just listening to a long version of Take My Breath Away, which was from their third album, Count Three and Pray. Now, there were two albums prior to this, the mini album, Pleasure Victim, and then the second album, Love Life. There was an album prior to Pleasure Victim called Information, but I don't think they count that in their back catalogue because I think it featured a different singer. So, Count Three and Pray features the singles, as I already said, Take My Breath Away, You Don't Know, and Like Flames. Now, the main singer for all these years has been Terry Nunn, and on guitar or bass she was joined by John Crawford, and on keyboards and occasional guitar, Dave Diamond. And there's been various other members come and gone over the years, and Terry has been the regular fixture since the dawn of the 80s. After Count Three and Pray, they did a Japanese tour and then faded from view. And I did quite enjoy the DVD Wham Bam Live in Japan, which shows the band at their best, even though they had a hired guitarist, with only Terry Berlin remaining with John Crawford from the original lineup. And on drums, I can't remember his name now, but he was the drummer they had on the third album, joined them for the second album, I think. The band sort of folded in about 1988 when they released a best of, and then it took another 10 years before the band was revived. That was around about 98, 99, and they released a live album called, let's see now, I'm trying to think the name of the album. I know she's breastfeeding on the front cover, but they had a few new tracks. And then that was followed by the album Voyeur, which was their first studio album since Count Three and Pray, and that was in about 2002. And then I think they did sort of live greatest hits album with a DVD. They did a mini album before that of covers called Foreplay, and then was the live album, and then they came back with an album called Animal, which I couldn't get hold of. And there has been another studio release since then, with the original members returning, John Crawford and David Diamond. And now there's an album recorded with an orchestra, which I think is called With Strings Attached. So I have got much of the back catalogue from the old school and the new school, and I must say I like the whole lot of music. I mean, Voyeur in particular, it's akin to the stuff that Madonna was doing around the time she did the Frozen song, although I've actually heard that album since. The name escapes me, but the album she did at the time, Ray of Light, it wasn't as good as the Berlin album. To me, the Berlin album is the album that a song like Frozen should have been on. So I'd check that one out if I were you. I think I found that one in a second-hand shop, like a Cash Converters or one of those sort of shops. But there's lots of weird things about Berlin. They seem to be inspired by the electronica type bands, but they also have a new wave sound, and that's reminiscent of Blondie, I suppose. There's a lot to the band, and I'd probably put them up in my top 5 because every time I hear them, there's a lot going on in the music. I mean, I'd also recommend the Pleasure Victim mini album that has like key tracks like the Metro and Sex, or SEX, I'm in brackets. It's bit sort of, I mean, when I hear that album, I always think of that film Videodrome with Debbie Harry, and I don't know whether they were paying into that in some way. It's got that sort of feel about it, like a sort of Cronenberg aspect. But that sort of whole '82 period was a bit weird. I mean, Hunter by Blondie was a pretty good album as well. That gets overlooked, as does Debbie Harry's album Cuckoo from '81, which features Chic. And it's sort of with this sort of music, you can sort of make a network of listening. You can, especially with like Cuckoo, it's got like a cover by H.R. Geiger, and he also did the cover for Brain Salad Surgery by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. So you could easily get into another kind of music just by the fact the art was done by the same person. I suppose much the same with Roger Dean's artwork for Yes albums. You can follow a pattern through his visual art for the covers, which explains the music, I suppose. The way old jazz albums would have jagged lines on the front cover to sort of suggest what the music was therein. But I do like this sort of maze of finding new music. I mean, even Blackburn themselves, they covered a song off. What was it? I think it's off Eat to the Beat by Blondie, the song Shayla. They do a cover of that on, I think it's a bonus track on the live album, which I'm trying to think of the name of. The name escapes me totally. I don't know, but I'll probably remember it by the end or something. But it was a good cover, although it had a bit of a sort of electronica feel to it from memory. They were going down that route, I think, after they did Take My Breath Away, which is, I mean, I'd say Take My Breath Away as the album Count Three and Pray. It's one of the greatest albums of all time. I mean, it's like, David Gilmour's on there, for example. There's it's like got guest stars. It's got Take My Breath Away, amazing sounds, like Flames, as I said before, and the opening track is just amazing as well. I think there's like an outtake on the best of, which is pretty similar. But that album, if you were in like a rock band, I think you'd be proud of that album. And I'm surprised it's never been rated at all by anybody. I mean, in a way, this video is about Count Three and Pray, and I should probably call it Count Three and Pray, or How Much I Love Count Three and Pray, because it's just a brilliant album from start to finish. Anyway, check out Berlin, especially Count Three and Pray, and I shall speak to you soon. Ta-ra.